Welcome to Imaginative Visions Journeys, where creators from the entertainment world discuss their journey to turning their dreams into reality. With your host, Justin D. Williams.
Welcome to Imaginative Visions Journeys. This will also be on the tacosandgeeks.com. Justin here. We're back. Was back after a long time, and we have director, writer David A. Flores. Hey, how you doing, David?
Hi, Justin. Good. Thanks so much for having me.
And yes, just to give everybody a little overview, David here has a new film called Likeness, which has been all over the film circuits and festivals right now, and we're going to talk about a very great film. So if you're at Holly Shorts right now, definitely check it out. And as always, what we do here, we always like to go a little bit deep dive into the backstory of our guests. So David, what do you remember? We're going to do origins right now. Do you remember the moment you fell in love with the craft of filmmaking?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. It's probably cliched to say, and I'm sure every filmmaker says a version of this, but I mean, some of my earliest memories just of life was watching movies, and like watching movies to the point where, because I'm a older millennial, so we had VHS tapes on VCR.
Same here. Same here.
So, like watching favorite movies to the point where the tape would start breaking and we'd have to like buy a new VHS, and just like memorizing the movies because I had watched them so much. So, for me, yeah, like Batman '89 or, Empire Strikes Back, Ninja Turtles, like these were those top three movies that like 4 or 5-year-old David would just, watch on repeat and just, consume every single second that I could. So yeah, long-winded way of saying I've always loved movies. It's always sort of just been part of the DNA. I feel like for me, it wasn't until high school I took a AV, like media productions class in high school, and I feel like that wasn't until that clicked where I was like, oh crap. I don't know if I can cuss here, but like,
Oh yeah, you can.
well then,
Yeah.
oh shit, like
Yeah.
I can actually make movies. Like what? So that unlocked something. It was like, leveling up in a way that I just didn't know could be possible. And then for better or worse, that's kind of been my career path ever since.
Do you have any? Oh, you did allude to like Batman, Empire Strikes Back, and the classic TMNT '90s, which is
Yeah.
all three movies I grew up watching as well. Like that
Yep.
is I am the '90s baby as well, '80s baby, mid '80s, grew up in the early '90s, so all that, just everything that you name is just like influential for just my love for film as well.
Oh
But
yeah.
do you have like a film that really made you go like, I want to direct, I want to start writing? And when did you decide that you were going to be the double threat instead of just doing directing, but you're also going to write your films as well?
Well, in terms of just pure directing, in terms of like this movie in my mind is flawless, no notes, like I can just watch it every time and still get inspired by it. Probably would be Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Mhm.
It just, you could have arguments as to which Indiana Jones movie is the best. For me, it is Raiders, but I think just in terms of a technical, like just filmmaking, directing level, I think Raiders is one of the best movies ever made, let alone the best Indiana Jones, whatever. But
Oh yeah, definitely it is. 100% it is. I agree.
yeah, we're on the same level here.
Yeah.
I feel it. um, for me, the and it's very nice of you to say double threat, writer director. That's still pretty new for me. So actually, the last almost 11 years, I've been more of a writer first
Mm.
and trying to break in the business as a screenwriter. And so the directing is still fairly new. Like likeness in I'm definitely considering likeness my first time like writer director endeavor. You know, I had directed short films and stuff in film school, but this really felt not on the level that we did with likeness. Like this really felt a level up. It wasn't so guerrilla style. It wasn't, you know, me asking my friend's girlfriend to like star in my movie. This was
Mm-hmm.
a project where, you know, we crowdfunded it and there still was some self-funding component. Like everyone got paid, not a lot, but everyone got paid, you know, so there just
Mm-hmm.
was a level of professionalism that I had never done before in any of my other film projects. Um, and really did that more just as a me getting tired of waiting to be anointed by Hollywood, by the industry of, you know, me having all of these scripts and doing years of work and realizing that they're PDFs on my computer and really just having that itch to make something and to see something that I've written you know, be put out to the world.
And that's something I want to touch on as well, because since this is about journeys, you alluded to your first film that you've done, and that you had to, you know, ask your friend's girlfriend to, you know, be the
Mhm.
star, and that's just a path that a lot of people take just to really get their vision out there. And I just want to just like emphasize on that, because we're in this digital age where you really don't need the backing or like the real support of those major studios. Like you can get your camera, like there's so much advanced cameras now that you can get probably for like $500 or anything. There's films
Absolutely.
that's been shot with their iPhones now,
Yeah.
and you have so much ways to go, like Venmo, you have YouTube, and all these other places to showcase your art. Talk about a little bit first before we get into likeness of your first film. What did you learn from that? What was your experience of your first time doing a short film? Like, how did you feel when you got there?
Yeah, so I will say, I think the first film that comes to my mind, it might have not been our first short film in college, but
Mm,
it certainly was it was us really going swinging for the fences and like just being the most ambitious that we could be.
mm,
It was a film called Harvester. You could probably find it somewhere on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, it was, you know, it was a short film, but it was our like 30-minute short film. It was this, you know, ridiculous thing. Just utilizing whatever we could, you know, getting friends and the friend's girlfriend to start, you know, that type of thing.
mm,
Um, and it was a period piece set in the 1930s. We filmed it in Tucson, Arizona, but also had like a sci-fi component to it. There was like this sci-fi serial killer who was like traveling back in time to like I don't really even know. Like I wrote it and I can't even really do a great log line for it anymore. But at the time we were like, this is gonna like this is gonna be the best fucking movie ever. And like it's gonna propel us into Hollywood or whatever. And I think the lesson that I learned with that was because as we were making it, I think it was like myself, the writer, and then the director. I wasn't directing it, but like we were really in love with the project. We were like, this is going to be great, and we could kind of feel the rest of our crew, who really were our friends, um, as we were making it. Maybe not necessarily being so in love with it, and you know, just being like, we're helping you guys out, but this kind of we don't think this is probably going to be that great of a movie.
mm.
And I'm not saying it is a good movie, but but I am saying that the final product, I think, turned out a lot better than even what crew was expecting on set.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like you can watch that movie and certainly see the non-budget that we had, and you know, we tried to do a lot of very ambitious things with like visual effects and us not knowing what the hell we were doing, but I still feel like there's the kernel there. Like you can watch that film and be like, oh, like there still was a vision there. And I guess my ultimate lesson that I learned from that I take in any of my projects is, uh, you know, if you don't believe in what you're doing, and if you're not championing your own work, like who the hell else will, you know?
Exactly.
Even if it's not good, like even if like the final product kind of falls on its face, like you have to be the ultimate supporter and the ultimate champion of your projects.
Mhm.
uh, you kind of have to like forget the naysayers and really just, if you believe in it and you're passionate about it, like try to make it the best it can be. And maybe it might break you into Hollywood, maybe it might not, but at least you can be proud of what you've done, and know that like there still was a lot of hard work and passion put into this thing.
Exactly. And that would transition us into your new film, Likeness, which I keep saying that it is so good. I love the concept of this. And
Thank you.
let's first talk about this concept, because the concept, of course, people watching, no spoilers. We're not going to spoil anything for you, so don't worry about it. But let's talk about the concept here, because it's about this young woman who mom is missing, and this AI likeness. And first question I have to ask is, are these two actresses related? Because the likenesses compare, it was so, I'm like, are they related? Are they not related? Because their resemblance to each other is so uncanny.
Right, yeah,
I was
no,
like,
it
wow.
we they're not related.
Okay.
And we nearly shit ourselves when we saw their auditions, because we were like, wait a minute, like we have to go with these actors, like they actually look like they could be
Yeah.
mother and daughter. So and the fact that they both killed their auditions, and it was like, it just sort of, lightning in a bottle, where we were able to get the best quality actor that we could with our budget. And the fact that, to your point, and I think you're the only one that's actually mentioned that, so I love hearing that you thought they actually could be related. That's music to my ears, so
Oh,
thank you.
well, it's called Likeness too. So I was
Yeah,
figuring that you guys were casting someone who looks like at least close to each other. To
I would love to take credit for that thinking, but it really just it just happened by pure dumb luck, and we were like, this is amazing, like let's just roll with this.
that's what, for me as an audience, that's what really drew me in. I was like, they look like, I'm watching. It's like, and then I looked at the IMDb, and like I was looking at, I was like, okay, they're not really related. I was like, maybe they're aunts. I was just like, but I was like,
Mm.
this is scary that they found two people that look so similar to each other. But from
Yeah,
the concept, where did the concept come about? Because this is it like a lot of commentary on like technology? Because there's a lot of things in here that I was just like, I like the concept of this girl talking to this kind of AI consciousness of her mom, and that consciousness is helping her find it, like, or try to piece together what happened to the mother.
yeah, to her real mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm I wouldn't consider myself a Luddite, but
Mhm.
I do, because obviously I live in modern society. I use technology, but I do think the concept of technology and how fast things have advanced, even in the last like 5 years, um, does scare me a bit. And my wife and I, we have a 1-year-old baby. We try to keep him away from screens, but he's starting to hit that age now where he is interested in screens. And like, even if he has our phone, it's just kind of eerie to see that like something clicks, like some type of lizard brain thing happens
Mhm.
with him, where he suddenly is like knows everything what to do on the phone, and it's like, we did not teach you this at all. Like,
My
so
my
yeah,
nephew's the same way, three
yeah,
months old, and it's just like, we're like, you just got here. How do
yeah,
you know what to press? How are you so? It's this new generation of babies. That's like a
yeah.
horror movie in itself. It's a new
Yeah.
generation of babies.
So I always, yeah. So I think a lot of the stuff that I do gravitate towards is that, or perhaps maybe cautionary tales. You know, yeah, I definitely am scared of technology. I'm scared of aliens. So it's like stuff
Mm.
like that. Those are things that I tend to like to do. Um, but I think for me, the initial idea of this really just started from a personal level, in terms of, I lost my grandfather in 2019, and I lost my grandmother a few years earlier. And I kind of was more just sitting with the idea of, hey, if I could talk to them again, what would I say? And then that sort of rolled into like, hey, well, what if AI could allow me to talk to them again, would I do that? Like, would I even want to do that? Would they even be my grandparents at that point? Um, and I feel like that I just kept thinking about that idea, and then obviously it kind of morphed into the film that it is, because for me, like, my grandparents, if I were to talk with them, it would be this lovely, happy,
Yeah.
miss you, grandpa, grandma thing. And I knew I were to try to do that for a film, I wanted to have something that felt dramatic with stakes and tension. So that's kind of why we morphed it into, not having had this be this saccharine Disney, love fest, but a story about a mother and a daughter who really kind of have an estrangement and have, um, you know, a lifetime of shit that they really haven't dealt with. And like, what would that look like? And just to sort of raise the stakes, raise the tension of it all.
And what were some of the challenges of doing the double duty of writing it and then also directing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest lesson learned on that was directing is really hard. Like, it is really, really hard. I mean, there's a reason why directors, I think, Hollywood directors are commanding the money and the all that, because it's a really hard thing. Like, not saying that writing is not hard, because obviously I'm a screenwriter at heart. I know how hard it is to craft a story out of nothing. Um, but essentially, when you're a director, you're taking the screenplay, the blueprint of what a film or a TV show should be, and you are translating that kind of the whole step of the way. It's not, just taking the train halfway point. Like, you're involved with the project from, in my case, from start to completion, because I wrote likeness as well. So it just was being able to wear the different hats,
Mm.
and as a writer, not be so precious about the thing that I wrote. And when you're a director, you're welcoming more people onto the team. You're welcoming a director of photography and production designer and hair and makeup. And for me, I wanted to hire people that were a lot smarter than me.
That's
And
always the
trust,
best way.
yeah, and sort of trust them to do their job and bring their expertise to it. So as a result, yeah, the script changed, and we made adjustments off of the team that was brought on. And it really, for me, I had to actively not be precious with my material, and sort of let the people doing their job like take it and give their thoughts, and it became a collaborative thing, which is ultimately what the final film is.
And I think that's always been a challenge for us writers, is the fact that when we take our characters that we create, so it's kind of like this ownership. It's like this is your child, this is your baby,
Of
and you
course,
got
yeah.
you're sending them out to the playground, and you're watching the other kids who are going to play with your child, and you're like, no, 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 I don't want that change. Leave my kid. But you gotta
Yeah,
let because they could make your child even better. So it's
yeah,
just that trust thing that you got to send it off, or send them off to the playground, send them to the watchers, the teachers, or whoever, and just hope and pray, like, okay, my child comes back. If he comes back different, at least the child might be a little bit better off than when I sent them out with it.
absolutely. And I think, to kind of go off of that metaphor, like, the child might fall, or
Yeah.
the child might like get hurt a little bit, you know what I mean? And like, that's okay. Like, it's all going to be part of the learning process. It may not necessarily be like rainbows and unicorns the entire way through. So
And one thing I did like is the way it was shot as well, because you have the daughter in front of the camera, like she's talking to the computer, but then you have the mom who's like literally in the cyberspace with this white background. How can you tell us a little bit about the film process, where it was shot, and how long were you shooting for?
yeah, so well, first off, we had an amazing DP, director of photography. Her name is Carrie Morgan, and I found her on Vimeo. Actually, I was looking for DPs and just did a generic DP, search, and found her reel. Thought it was amazing. Reached out to her, and thankfully she was, really, she had been wanting to do like a sci-fi project, so that really helped, to be able to bring her on board. And so part of that, kind of what I was saying is like hiring people that are smarter than me, right? And I make no pretenses that I am a technical camera person, so I know I had a vision. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I had wanted, kind of the shots that it is, where it's just, two characters talking to each other and on a single frame. And then after that, I kind of just trusted Carrie and her team to come up with the visual style. What type of camera are we going to film on? Like what lenses? Just all the technical bells and whistles. I really didn't try to micromanage that or well, what about this? What about this? I was kind of like, yeah, you guys have free reign. Let me know what you need. If we can afford it in our budget, we will, you know what I mean? And so I think the end product speaks for itself, because visually, I'm her and her team were wizards. And I just remember looking at the monitor and just being like, gosh, this just looks so good. So yeah, props to Carrie and the camera team and lighting team on that. And so then in terms of the actual shoot, we shot 2 days. It was a 2-day shoot.
Oh, wow.
We filmed in Los Angeles. We filmed, one of our locations was at like kind of a farmhouse location. And then the other, we filmed at a studio called Avenida Productions. Avenida had actually been our, they have a crowdfunding platform, and we had actually used their crowdfunding platform to crowdfund the film. And so thankfully they gave us a discount on using their studio space. And that was the main brunt of, the actual mother-daughter talking scene. So they had a sick wall in the studio that sort of came out, and it was a big white wall already there. So we just placed our mother actress, her name is Virginia. We placed Virginia in front of the white wall and just shot her there. And then for the Caitlin character, the daughter character, the actress's name is Mary Rose Brannick. We placed Mary Rose. Well, we had production design like create her bedroom, because they did have a bedroom set, but it was a very bare, basically just like a gray wall with nothing on it. And so production design absolutely killed it. And you would never know. You thought like we shot that in somebody's actual room, but that was all production design. So.
Oh wow, because I actually thought that was filmed like in the actual room, like either your location, your home, or somebody else's home. Because I know
it was, we started that day and it was literally just a gray wall. And within 2 hours it was this filled out lived in bedroom.
Wow. So what advice, because I always like to ask my guests advice for other inspiring filmmakers out there, especially who want to get into at least the indie circuit, what advice can you give them? Or if someone who say like they have a small budget, or they have a crappy camera or things, like what advice can you give them?
Yeah, I think, and this is something that I learned from Likeness too, because ultimately I would consider myself more of a pessimist at the end of the day. And so I really had to wear the optimist hat and go against the grain for this entire film, and just believe that like we are going to get this done, yada yada yada. So I would say for me, just ask. You know what I mean? Like there is a power in just asking, because you might get a no, but you might get a yes. And every time I asked, fully thinking it was going to be a no, I got a yes, like across the board, from kind of step one of like asking the producer that we got, and he said yes. And then ultimately the cast that we got, because especially with Virginia Newcomb, I don't know if you're aware, but I mean she's definitely a thing in the indie film circuit. she's done an A24 film, The Death of Dick Long, and then she was in another film, The Beta Test. So it's kind of one of those things where if you know, you know. And she auditioned for us, and we were like, oh my gosh, like this is we actually know this person. And so, yeah, I mean, even just from getting the team that we had, just me shooting my shot, making the ask, and thankfully we were able to get yeses across the board, even down to the point of paying people. Because again, we did pay people, but I tried to be very honest and upfront of like, hey, we're not Netflix. Like,
Yeah.
it's just me. Like, I am one guy trying to do a thing. I want to pay you, but I can't pay you certainly what you're worth,
Yeah.
So this is what we can pay you. I hope you can be part of the project, kind of a take it or leave it thing. And thankfully everyone accepted, and we were able to get like an amazing team because of it. So I don't know. My advice to anyone starting out is certainly have the vision and the drive and shoot your shot, because it may not happen, but it may happen. So just, you got to shoot your shot.
And that's one thing before we get to the last question I want to touch on is the fact that just being on indies myself, doing comic books and stuff like that, you have to have people around you that believe in your vision. And that this is just very, very important, because if people are passionate as you with your vision, you're going to get something like the production that you just did with Likeness, is that you can see that labor of love with people who actually believe in your vision. And I think that's just something that you touched on, is just like having that team. Have a team that's very driven, very believable in your vision, and not people who are just going, oh, that's good, but let me just that just creates like someone who's just trying to take over your vision, like put their vision to it. You don't want to have that type of conflict with it.
That's a fantastic point. It's like, if you got to convince someone to want to work on your thing or be passionate about it, and that person's not for you. Like, move on to find another team member that is going to be passionate about it. Because if they are passionate about it, a lot of the times it's not even for the money, I think that's it. It's like, try to find people that are willing to work on you, with you, for you, not necessarily for the money. Because if you can pay them something, even if it's just like $100, $200, that's like a cherry on the top for them. But if they're coming into it like, hey, I need to pay my mortgage or my rent off of your film, that might not necessarily be the team member that you want on
the squad. And since I actually gonna have one more question after the final question. So since you're wearing a Star Wars shirt, I had to ask, since I'm a big Star Wars fan myself, which one's your favorite?
Well, I hinted at it earlier in the conversation, but definitely Empire Strikes Back for me. It's even with all the new Star Wars, everything that has come through, I feel like Empire is still the one that cannot be beat in my mind.
I always shock people with my choice, because they're like, really? I'm like, yes, Revenge of the Sith is actually my favorite one. People are like, wait, how? I'm like, I love the original. Don't get it. I love the original. It's just something about that journey of Anakin turning into Darth Vader.
No, I get that. I think
that's what did it.
I think Revenge of the Sith certainly is the best of the prequel.
Oh yeah, by far.
I mean, and there's a couple things that even at the time I was like, I kind of wish they internal grown a little bit. Kind of wish they hadn't done that, but overall, it's a solid film, and it's great to finally see it happen. What I mean? It's like it had been so much build up to actually see the turn to Darth Vader. So the fact that we actually get to witness it, and it's done pretty well, and that lightsaber scene in Mustafar is
classic. To me, I think that's like the best to this day. It's just like they really did the thing on that one. But Empire is always like, that is just masterful class of just probably is the greatest sequel ever made, from what a lot of people say. It is just master class filmmaking.
I agree, just in terms of taking what has already been established and just raising everything up by like 10 degrees. Yeah.
And final question is, what do you hope people who are going to see Likeness, what do you hope they take from it? And also, how can the audience reach you? Do you have a social media or a follower and things like that?
For sure. Yeah. So ultimately, you know, our film deals with loss and grief and acceptance. And so it's my hope that, you know, if you're a human being, which I'm assuming everyone listening is, you've probably lost someone in your life or will lose someone in your life. And I just hope that our film can reach you, can touch you in some way, even if it's not your cup of tea or whatever. But I just hope that you can leave the experience, you know, just thinking about your lost loved one, and just wondering like, what if I could potentially talk with them again, or have a communication with them, like what would I say? So and then in terms of where you can find me on the socials, on Instagram, it's David Flores Writes, as in writer. So that's WRITES. And then on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, me too.
D Flores Writes.
All right, David, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. And congratulations on the film.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for joining us for Imaginative Visions Journeys. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from Imaginative Visions, you can visit imaginativevisions.com.